Coach Muschamp has done to visit with you all a little bit about the JDIF program that he's involved with, along with becoming probably hopefully our all-time leading scorer this weekend. Also tomorrow night, Wednesday night, SEC Film Room will feature Coach Muschamp along with Coach Roper, and they'll break down the Tennessee game. So if you don't want to wait till Ben Briner's story in the state, you can watch Coach Roper talk about that. So.
I missed a joke on that one. But we got Missouri here at 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon on the SEC Network. Barry Odom, their head coach, is a former defensive coordinator, did a fantastic job with their defense. Really good football coach, and he's taken over the defensive play calling, which creates a little angst for us from a standpoint of, are they continuing to stay with what they're doing? Are they changing what they're doing? And those are things you got to kind of go through as a coach and vet out as far as the films when he called the games. And there's always a little difference, depending on who's calling the game. But they've had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Certainly has set them back. But they've got some really talented players. Charles Harris is as good a pass rusher as there is in our league, and Aaron Penton is a guy that's probably as good a cover guy as in our league. And they've played really good defense at Missouri, and certainly will play well Saturday. Offensively, Josh Heupel's their offensive coordinator. With Josh was at Oklahoma. Got a lot of respect for him and what they're doing. They're playing really fast. They're playing with a great tempo. On average, they're taking a snap on the 40-second clock between 25 and 30 seconds. So that's about 10 seconds between each snap to tell you the kind of speed they're playing with. And we haven't been exactly the most mentally in tune, focused defense at times. So we really got to be dialed into what we need to do to be successful on game day against this bunch. And I think a really talented offense. Drew Lock's a guy that can make all the throws. You watch him sit the whole ball in the cover two, and some of the vertical balls he throws down the field. He's got tremendous arm strength and really a good skill guys outside that run extremely well. And so we're going to need to cover down. There's going to be probably 10 to 12 shots in the game. We're going to need to defend those shots and stay on top of the receivers down the field. Really good specialists and returners. And we've got to cover better, kickoff coverage and punt, and some of the things we're lacking a little team speed, and where that starts to hurt you the most is on special teams. And we don't have enough team speed right now. We've got to continue to recruit to that. But Missouri's a lot like us. They're really young. I think they've had 24 first-time starters. We've had 19. We start more true freshmen than anybody in the country at 7. But they've got a young team, and they've been through some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Last SEC home game for our seniors, and it's amazing sitting there this morning. I had a senior meeting and talking to those guys about their time here, and when I said that to them, a couple of them looked up at me like they didn't realize this was their last SEC home game. And time flies, and certainly appreciate all their contributions moving forward. I do have some very sad and disappointing news. Robert Tucker, a freshman tight end for us, has had a couple issues, a hereditary issue with his neck when he came in. Had some numbness in camp a couple times. Have had some reoccurring issues with his neck, and we met with a spinal specialist yesterday and feel like that he needs to shut down football in his life right now. He's had a promising career as a football player. He's a great person and a great young man. He will continue to stay at the University of South Carolina. He's going to get his education here. He and I are talking about how he's going to stay involved with the football program, whether it's helping me or helping Coach Tanner. He wants to be an athletic director one day. But we're going to take care of Robert. Just really sad for him, as good a young man as we've got in our program. And really sad, but certainly glad that our medical staff was able to catch this before it became more of an issue. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand, I'll get a microphone to you, David.
Will, with Rico Dowdle's emergence, did you guys see this coming before the groin injury, and were you a little cautious about putting him out there after that injury, especially knowing what he could do?
We felt very comfortable that he was going to be a very good player. I think you don't ever know till you actually get between the white lines and play on game day. You just never know how quickly the maturation process takes place and when they're ready to go and those sort of things. But no, there's no doubt that we felt like in camp that he was going to be a really good football player.
Let's go back to Mike.
Coach, has anything surprised you about Jake Bentley? And the second part of this question, when did you know that he was going to be your starter? Was there a point along the way, the last 6 or 7 weeks, where you said, okay, that's my guy?
Well, I think that I haven't really been surprised because I think he prepares himself. He works extremely hard. I think work ethic is a talent in life, and he has a very strong work ethic and approach, and obviously God's blessed him with some ability. He's got a great competitive edge about himself and a great demeanor to be a quarterback. I think that through each position, you see things that you say that's what you're looking for. That's the attributes you're looking for at the position. He certainly has those. He certainly has those qualities. But you don't ever know till game day until you get out there and you got to play the game and you got to play when it counts. And certainly seeing him in his first start and then coming into his, playing pretty consistently into his second start against a very good defense, you certainly feel good about the future.
Over here, Pete.
Will, you talked about the 19 freshmen you played, the 7 that you start. What kind of a leap of faith is that to rely on guys like that who, yes, they may be talented, but they're freshmen who could still make some mistakes and still have a lot of growing?
It's where we are. It is what it is. And but again, I'd rather play a young, talented guy that's got a promising future that can make some plays and is going to contribute to the program, has got a bright future, than play an older guy that's not as talented at the end of the day. I mean, that's what it's about, and that's where we are right now, and it says a lot about the evaluation that took place in a transition year, which is always the hardest year in recruiting, is when you're transitioning. You're hiring a staff, you're recruiting, you're evaluating, you're going through that process, and there are some times where you do take a leap of faith as far as the evaluation process, because you don't know as much about the student athlete as you would if you had been there for a year or two. So, but I think our staff did a fantastic job of evaluating players and the type of young people we want in our program.
Josh.
What was your staff's involvement with recruiting involvement with Rico Dowdle before you guys got here, and what position was USC in when you got to Rico here?
No, well, Sean Elliott had been recruiting Rico previous to our time here. When I first took the job, we spent a lot of time in the film room going through all the guys, and he was a guy that played quarterback in high school in Nashville, and a guy that you just saw the athleticism, you saw the explosiveness, the change of direction. In high school, if you want to put your best athlete, put the ball in his hands every snap, and that's what they did. So you saw all of those things that excite you. Don't really know about the competitive edge and all those sort of things till you continue to recruit the young man and the people around him. But came from a great high school program, and certainly is a guy that glad we got.
Brian.
You talked a little bit about Odom taking over the play calling duties, but from your position, do y'all have to double up your efforts to be ready for both sides of what you think they may do, or do you expect a hybrid?
Well, again, you kind of piecing things together. I think the biggest thing as a coach is be prepared for whatever you think you may see, and you can't wholesale change things in the middle of the season. That's very hard to do. So within the concepts they already have within their defense, and obviously some things that he likes to see and call, and how they may attack us by looking at some like opponents from previous years.
Back in the room, TJ.
Coach, over the last couple of days and today, do you like kind of the attitude of your team coming off such a big win against Tennessee?
Well,
move forward.
I think we had a good. I challenged our football team this morning about complacency. We certainly don't have any room for it. We don't have any margin of error around here right now. So I really challenged our guys about the preparation it takes to be successful week in, week out, the consistency in your performance week in, week out, the approach week in, week out that we need to have to be successful. And I think they understand that. I thought we had a very good effort at practice this morning. I thought we had a good physical practice. I think that our mental focus was off in some spots. Now, every Tuesday you're installing some new things. So generally sometimes there's a little more thinking going on than there is reacting, and we'll reduce that back again tomorrow and Thursday and be ready to go for Saturday.
David.
Will, have you and Kurt looked at other options for how to play McElwain, maybe slot receiver or just something
No, he's
else?
he's quarterback. Mm-hmm.
Josh.
What are the practice and game rewards for turnovers for guys who get turnovers?
We give them ball hawk shirts.
Okay.
I get a shirt.
So Jamarcus has 3 shirts, or you just keep getting shirts? Or?
We keep getting they're good-looking shirts. We got a black one, we got a garnet one, and a white one. And we do get a production belt for the most production points for that week.
Jamarcus have it this week?
Jamarcus and Dante Sawyer did.
Go back to the room, Mike.
You said that there's no room for complacency, but looking back when you first took over this program here, was this where you wanted them to be at this point?
No, we wanted to be 8-0.
Just at the start of the year, after you'd seen this team in practice, did you expect you'd get what you've gotten from Dante Sawyer?
Well, Dante missed spring with the shoulder surgery that he had in the offseason. So, again, you don't really know. I don't ever put expectations on a player that I haven't seen perform. I mean, I know he's played and he's been a good player. And I knew recruited Dante out of high school, so I knew who Dante was. So, but he's been a guy that when you miss that much time with the shoulder, you miss a lot of lifting opportunities. It sets you back as far as the strength. And so he's a guy that's continued to improve throughout the year because he's also been able to gain strength and endurance in his body as the year has continued to move forward. And that's why I think he's playing his best football right now, as opposed to earlier in the year when maybe his strength wasn't where it needed to be because of the surgery, because you still got to be careful in, a shoulder situation of the, not overworking it as far as the rehab was concerned. Yeah.
We're in the back of the room.
Coach, what have you guys been stressing or emphasizing as far as special teams, as far as correcting some issues there? It's kind of been a theme. It's kind of shown up throughout the year, but now the offense and defense is kind of getting the groove. I guess how you trying to bring special teams up to that level now?
Well, I mean, our coverage units, again, I think team speed's an issue, and so we were asking them to run faster. I was kind of supposed to be funny, but it wasn't, I guess. So I think that, the ball placement has been good by Elliott. Our hang time, our numbers have been good. We've got to do a better job of what we call the fly zone, avoiding in the fly zone blockers. We're getting locked onto blocks too long. We're not getting off blocks in those situations. And then being able to disengage better down the field on kickoff coverage. But a lot of that has to do with speed in the fly zone. We've got to be able to beat blockers in what we call the fly zone area, the flying 40. So when they catch the kickoff, we'd like for our guys to be at the 30-yard line. And so when you stop the tape and they catch the kick, if you have the correct ball placement and hang time, that's where we want our guys to be. Some of our guys are at the 36, 38-yard line. You're talking about another distance of 10 yards almost, where they've got time to get the return set up and get the wedge and all the things set that they need to get set. So, that's an issue for us. That's a little bit, hopefully the punt return stuff, we're moving forward with that better as far as fielding the punt. And that sort of thing. We've really been pretty good with our punt coverage for the most part. One got out the other night, and it was part of the reason was because of a hold situation coming out there off the goal line. And Sean's been pretty accurate as far as the kicks and stuff are concerned. And kickoff return, we had a big one there against East Carolina early in the year, and we really lacked past that of getting some other things going. So there's no question we spend a lot of time on special teams. We meet as a team every day, at least 25 to 30 minutes, and go over all phases that we're installing for that day. We spend a lot of time on it. We spend a lot of drill work on it. We need to improve on it, but the biggest issue we have right now is just team speed. We got to get faster.
Stand back, kid next.
How is Sky Moore's recovery going, and is the plan right now still for him to redshirt and come back next year?
Correct. Sky was cleared yesterday to lift. He's been doing some light lifting and some light running, but he was cleared yesterday to be able to go in the weight room and do any exercise he wants to do as far as the axle loading and all those things are concerned, any of the running and the change of direction. That's it, no contact. And that clearance will not come until January. So that's where we are right now. Mm-hmm.
Rico's ability to run through contact, is that because of the way he runs, or physically is he just too much for a lot of guys to handle?
No, certain guys have the ability to do that. Certain guys are strong enough to do it, but don't necessarily do it. Some guys have a certain balance and body control to be able to do it, like he does. Some guys have more girth than others. But it doesn't necessarily have to do with size or speed or girth. It has to do with certain guys have the talent and the ability to do it, and some maybe not so much.
Going back.
Will, with some of the younger guys getting more playing time as the year's gone on, when you have seniors that might not be playing as much, how important is it for those guys to be able to continue to buy in and be able to be leaders? I mean, how much have you seen that? And how much has that affected you guys?
Well, the greatest example on our football team is Perry Orth. And I'm sitting there at 7-on-7 today, and Jake makes a decision before Kurt Roper says anything. Perry walks over and says, what did you see here? I mean, so what a great example for our entire organization. A guy that's a senior, a fifth-year senior, has contributed an awful lot to our program, but continues in his way to contribute to our program. We all have roles within the organization, whether it's a football program, it's a business. It doesn't really matter. If you don't like your role, then be more productive to do something about it if you can. But understand your role and the role you're in, and do the best job you can do with the role you have. And right now, I use the example of Perry Orth because the guy has been instrumental in the development of Brandon and Jake, and continuing to be in the meetings, and to hear Kurt Roper talk about how he helps those guys when they come off the sideline, and all of those things, to me, that says a lot about him as a young man, but also says a great example for the rest of our football team.
This has been a particularly challenging year for field goal kickers. Have you noticed that? I mean, given your focus on Saturdays, have you seen some of the struggles of guys across the country this year?
I haven't.
How much thought do you give to your field goal kicker?
Well, I have a huge confidence level with Elliott.
That's kind of my point. Do you think about it less than you would if you had a guy who was struggling and you have to,
absolutely.
You have to figure out how to manage that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to have confidence in a guy like Elliott, and he's a guy that I just got a lot of confidence in. I don't really. I go in pregame and I ask Elliott, "Where do you feel good from?" And he says, "Going to the tunnel, I feel good at the 35. Going this way, I feel good from the 38." So I know right then I don't even worry about it anymore. I mean, there's no discussion anymore on the headsets. It's just that's where we are. I tell Kurt, this is where we got to get in field goal range. I'll tell you if you get 2 downs, whatever the case may be. But no, it's a luxury that you don't always have. And I've been in that other situation where you're, worried about whether or not you can get it through the uprights for an extra point. So.
Go to the corner.
Are you guys at the point in the season where you would consider holding Randrikis for the rest of the season and doing a medical?
Well, we had that discussion Sunday, and we're still kind of working through that. He's going to be out this week, but depending at those last 3 ball games, what our health is at the position. But that's also a conversation we're having with Randrikis, which we have not had yet, and that'll be a discussion that we all have together.
Is it the same kind of scenario with Donnell as well?
No, Donnell's going to play. I feel like he'll be more ready to go this week. He was cleared for last week, but he had a hard time getting up on his toes, and we felt like that he needed another week to get ready.
And one more, Hayden talked about how you try to keep the guys from getting too high or too low. Do you do anything beyond just talking about that, or is there some other kind of drills or exercise you can?
Just talk about it.
What is Jake Bentley's ability to scramble kind of added to this offense, and with what he did against Tennessee, was that something that you guys kind of expected or not really?
Well, Jake's a much better athlete than people will give him credit for. But I think as much as anything, it's not necessarily athletic ability. It's more pocket presence and having the innate ability to feel a rush, to feel pressure, to feel where it's open, to be able to scramble, to move yourself in the pocket. Some guys have a very strong feel for that, to keep their eyes downfield, to not stare at the rush, to move in the pocket the way you're supposed to move in the pocket, and understand, the distribution of a 4-man rush, a 5-man rush, where you are protected, where you're not protected. And so, again, a lot of that goes back into preparation, but a lot, to me, goes into innate ability to have a pocket presence.
Since Pat Washington spent the last 3 years on the Missouri staff, is he a guy that you're going to lean on, particularly this week, for a scouting report on the Tiger players?
Well, we talked, obviously, his being familiar with the guys, and recruited some of the guys and guys that we feel that what kind of speed do they really have. Sometimes the film can lie to you a little bit, and this, that, and the other. But we certainly have leaned on Pat as far as those things are concerned. Schematically, they've changed offensive coordinator. They've changed a little bit defensively in what they do and how they do it, so it's not as much scheme-wise as it is just personnel, just talking through those things.
Is DJ Smith in the concussion protocol or program or whatever that is after that?
He was okay. He was kind of dinged his shoulder more than anything.
John?
Just kind of from a broad perspective across the SEC, does it seem like offensive line play is better or worse than it has been in years past? There seems to be, discontent across fan bases just about how, their offensive lines have performed.
I don't know. I know that right now I can look at who we've played, and Myles Garrett and number 10 from A&M are as two good a defensive ends there is in the country. Charles Harris from Missouri is as good a defensive ends in the country. Barnett the other night, he's 2 sacks away from Reggie White's record. Reggie White's pretty good. All right, so there's some really dominating rushers in our league that are one-on-one matchups are very difficult. And there's some interesting pressure schemes that we saw the other night, and I give them credit for coming up with some really good things that gave us some issues. We did a nice job picking some things up. On down the line, I talked about Harris, and Florida's got some defensive linemen that are all going to play on the next level moving forward. So, I think that this league, what makes this league different is the defensive lineman. That you're not going to stand there and hold the ball for an extended period of time without getting hit. That's going to happen in our league, and that's the difference. So, to answer your question, I think it's really hard to consistently block, for sustained periods against some of the people in our league because there's some elite talent in our league, and it'll show up in in April, excuse me.
How much have pressure packages changed over the last few years? Do you see more on a week-to-week basis, or just how have they changed?
Well, normally, in my opinion, first and second down is the normal stuff that you're going to see. Where you get into some exotic things is on third down, and you get into some odd pressures or even pressures or overloads, trap coverages, things that are a little bit against the norm is when you start to see those things start to show up more. But probably in early downs, there's more pressure involved than maybe there was 10 years ago. But third down is where you see the exotics. Yeah.
Well, kind of piggybacking on Josh's question about DJ, was there a couple days later, was there anything on film that kind of lessened their actions between Chris's actions, DJ's actions on the field the other day that got them ejected?
Well, no, I mean, Chris lost his composure, and we talked about that. He came to me at halftime, and Chris was devastated. He was upset. He was apologetic. I mean, the things happen. Sometimes you lose your composure, and he certainly did. And nobody feels worse than he does, And so in DJ's situation, it's a bang bang play, and when you butt with your forearms, that generally causes you to lower the crown of your helmet. So the coaching point was to lower your target, keep your eyes up, and wrap on the receiver, and that generally keeps your face mask up. So now you don't butt with the crown of your helmet. So that's, to me, it's just about being technical in your approach. And I explained to DJ this is what I think you should have done in that situation. Very easy for me to sit there on a Monday afternoon and explain it, as opposed to in front of 80,000 people at Williams-Brice Stadium, and Jennings, who weighs 215 pounds, coming down the seam, and he's ready to split your skull if you don't split his. So have any of y'all ever been in that position? Because I have. It's a little different for sitting there and talk about it than it is when it's live bullets, man. And it's fast, and you got to make a decision, and it's bang, bang. But, most of the people that are critical, they never strapped up and played.
You spoke the other night about how much better Hayden has become as a blocker. Where did he need the most work in that regard? Was it just technique because of he hadn't played football in a while? Or?
Well, no, we're asking him to do things he's never done before. So as far as angles, as far as protections, as far as run blocks, as far as tracking the mic, there's so many things that are so foreign to him. But since he's such a good athlete, he's able to adjust and be able to handle those things and do very well at those things. So very pleased with his, we need to get the ball to him more. I've said that now. We had some things dialed up the other night. We had 2 shots, drew up for him and didn't get the ball there. But he's a guy we've got to continue to evolve in our offense. He did a fantastic job the other night. And the reason why he's one of the players of the game, when we progressed in the game and we were getting so much pressure, we went to some more 7-man protection, 6-man protection, and he was involved in all of that. That wasn't something that we had practiced a lot for the simple reason we hadn't seen some of the stuff we were seeing. And so we had to change in the game and make some adjustments, and he did a fantastic job in the game for doing some of the things we asked him to do.
Back there.
Coach, with the production you've got at running back the last couple of weeks, how do you manage using each guy differently? I mean, you got Dowdle obviously playing outstanding the last couple of weeks. Williams saw the end zone for the first time in a couple of years. I mean, how do you manage that, having so many guys doing so well right now?
Well, competition is my best motivator. So guys that go practice the right way and go in the meetings the right way and lift weights the right way and handle themselves the right way, those are the guys that play, and the guy that's got the hot hand is the guy that's going to play. So they're all going to get their opportunities and touches early, and we're going to go with a guy that we think is gaining the best yards and hitting the holes and, in the inside zone scheme and pounding that thing up in there and running for bull yards. And those are all things that we're evaluating every day. And those guys are all competing, and that helps us as a program. Yeah.
When you talk to the players about kind of avoiding complacency, are there spots when you look back in your career and you see different games and kind of say, I think that my team at that point might have gotten complacent or might have gotten a little high on itself?
Well, I think that it's just, I don't think that's more team-oriented as much as it is individuals that sometimes lose lack of focus, which then it looks bad for the entire organization. So I think when you're talking, and I've talked to our position coaches and our coordinators about really reaching the guys in your room, because it can just take 3 or 4 guys to not be mentally dialed into what we're trying to do, and then all of a sudden it looks really poor for the entire organization. So to say that they weren't ready to play, that's kind of a blanket statement. I don't believe in that. I believe there may have been some individuals that weren't ready to play, and that made everybody look bad. And so that's kind of the way I look at those situations. I don't think that a team wasn't ready to play. I don't agree with that. I think maybe there were parts of that team that may not have been ready to go, and that affected the entire organization. So.
Back there, Mike.
Well, last week, some of the players said that they thought it was a little surprising that you brought up the fact that Tennessee had won 3 in a row against Carolina. Is there how do you determine whether to bring up a certain streak, and did you address the fact that Mizzou has now won 2 in a row?
I haven't to this point, but I think that every week is a little different, and when you're talking to your team, and the thing I try and do is not give them too much, because eventually they tune you out as far as those things are concerned. But the things that I think are important, I thought it was very important that the last 4 games are decided by 11 points. That was pretty alarming to me when I saw that. So I felt like that it was a team that we matched up well with. I felt like it would go into the 4th quarter, and my message for our team was to finish. And no different than this week. This game will be a 4th quarter game, and we're going to need to go finish the game and continue to build confidence and belief in those things that we do in the critical moments of the game.
Back to Tim.
Will, in your experience, does it take a team to go through a certain amount of success to be able to handle it well, or is it more predicated on the personality of those players being able to handle success?
Well, I think as a team, you got to form some consistency before you can talk about being a consistent football team. And that's what I harp on all the time with our players is our consistency and performance. And it starts with practice and how you prepare. It starts with the film work, all of the things you put in off the field to be a successful football player, which helps us be a successful football team. And I just think, again, we can't talk about consistency unless you've done it, and we certainly haven't done it.
John.
Just to be sure I understand properly on Chris Lamons, was there a review process by the SEC that he was cleared for to be able to play, or have you all heard back from the league?
Well, I haven't heard anything from the league, and based on the previous situations before, he's cleared to start the game, unless I'm told differently.
And with Donnell Stanley, do you, after watching him a couple of days in practice this week, is he healthy enough to be able to start?
He looked better today than he did at any day last week, and will continue to progress tomorrow. And sometimes when you come off an ankle like he did, which was a severe ankle injury, sometimes like last week, we felt like he weakened as the week went on. So he got more reps today than he did at any point last week. So we'll continue to monitor it, and we want Donnell to get back out there. He's a good football player for us. But we're not going to put a player out there that's not healthy and risk further injury. We're not going to do that.
What does winning do for recruiting, especially Saturday night, big environment where I imagine there are a lot of recruits in the house?
Well, the environment that we have in our home stadium, especially for a night game, is tremendous in recruiting. And to see the positive support that our fans give us helps us tremendously in recruiting. I think you always got to have promise in what you're trying to sell to a young man and his family, and see that that the product on the field is benefiting. Most prospects talk to the players on the team, so they're going to find out if you're a good coach, if you really care about them off the field, if all of the things that a young man would ask another young man about a school, about the academic support, about all of the things that are important to a student athlete when he's choosing a school. But you got to be able to see some progress as far as those things are concerned. So there's no doubt it helps.
Was Antoine Wilder okay coming out of Saturday?
Yeah, he banged his shoulder up. He practiced today. He was full contact today, but he had a hard time getting some motion back in his shoulder. We think he should be fine for Saturday. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, thank you.